Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday. I wanted to talk about the number one skill that leaders need to develop in order to be more effective at their workplace for the sake of themselves and their teams. I recently had an interesting conversation with a client. She mentioned that when she was an individual contributor during the early stage of her career, her productivity equaled output, her output equaled success. But now that she's a people leader, having a number of people who report into her, success and productivity is not that simple. Now success equals not just her productivity, but the productivity of her team and the output of her team. And one of the challenges that can come up for people leaders is when they are so focused, because every ambitious leader is focused on growing, is focused on results. But the biggest challenge that comes in the way is when, in spite of everything they do, the expectation that they have in terms of the work output for the team just doesn't materialize. And this is the number one reason why I believe that leaders who are really productive on their own, high performers, struggle to effectively get their team to produce at that level. And so the fundamental challenge that comes in is leaders who are managers tend to focus on results. Leaders who are people leaders tend to care about people. For every leader, if you are a people leader, results matter. Absolutely, it matters. But what matters more is the relationship you have with your team and how much do they feel your care for them. And so, the number one skill that I'm going to talk about today, which is the foundational skill for all coaches, is really about caring for your team, is about focusing on the individual in front of you, not their work, not their output, not the gap, but focusing on the individual. The number one reason why people struggle nowadays, and you hear terms like quiet quitting and employees are getting disengaged, the real reason is they don't feel cared for. And as a leader, it's your responsibility to care for the individual. But I hear you asking, Manoj, I am stressed. My team is struggling. The work is not happening on time. How can I, because I myself am scattered. I myself am worried and, anxious. How can I care for the team or focus on the individual? I have to focus on the result. And this is why it's important to do the inner work. Because if you can't be with something, if you are struggling to be with something, then you can't be there for your team. I really believe that every people leader needs to learn and master their own psychology and their own emotional intelligence. The other thing that was disappointing when I had a conversation with a number of clients and also with people across the tech sector is that in spite of all these layoffs going on, there's not really a honest conversation around emotions. There's not many leaders who are walking into their meetings and being like, "Hey guys, how are you feeling? What's going on?" Everything is being kind of brushed under the carpet, and work is going about as usual. But in this environment and the temperature is anxiety, how can you come across as a leader who cares? And so, for you to effectively lead and effectively care for the individual and care for their growth, you also need to do your own inner work and really get in tune with your own emotions. The other pet peeve is emotions is kind of being brushed under the carpet. And I experienced that a lot in my own career. The only emotion I saw, or maybe two, was pride when things went great, or anger and frustration when things didn't go great. And I think that's such an important skill, because as a human being we go through so many different emotions. And when we can kind of get more in tune with ourselves and kind of figure out what's going on, then we can also figure out what's going on for the other person. I still remember that this happened years ago when I was struggling with a personal event that happened in my life. And I remember going into this one on one meeting and I was just so scattered. I was distracted. And this leader, my manager, looked at me and said, Manoj, what's going on? You seem distracted. And just him opening that space, instead of pointing out and saying, why aren't you focusing? He really gave me the space to share how I felt, what I was going through. And at the end of the meeting, oh my God, my loyalty towards this person and my respect for this individual went up. And that is what leaders need to be today. Not transactional, but relationship oriented. Not results focused, but really individual focused. More inspiring, less, you know, business as usual. How can you be an inspiring leader if you can't focus on you doing your own inner work? And that means to figure out what's going on within you. How do you manage your own anxiety? How do you identify and deepen your own emotional intelligence? Because when you can do that, then you can develop the capacity to have uncomfortable conversations. I get why people don't want to talk about layoffs or impending layoffs. It's extremely uncomfortable. But notice that when you don't recognize that in yourself, it's almost impossible to have a conversation. And so, what I want for, if you are listening to this, what I want for you, if you are managing a team of people, start really focusing on the individual. You may have some people who you like, and for sure, you're going to have some people who you dislike. Maybe you're judging a part of them. They're arrogant, they're lazy, they say one thing, they do another. But that judgment is going to come in the way of building a relationship. One of the foundational skills as a coach is to discern instead of judge. Discern that, yes, this is an issue that needs to be fixed, but really focusing on the individual and seeing the potential of who they can become. And so, what I want to offer you is start doing the inner work. Get a coach, have a conversation, really figure out what's going on. Have the ability to really go into a meeting, go into a one on one conversation with your entire focus being on the individual in front of you. And when you can do that, you would come across as a caring leader. You would come across as somebody people can open up to. And you're going to create a sense of belonging, a sense of loyalty, a sense of connection, which I think all of us need. I hope this is useful. And if you are interested in knowing more and wanting to deepen your own coaching skills, if you are interested in becoming a better coach for your team, I would love to have you for my workshop that I'm doing this Friday. It's called Manager to Coach, the I Care model. And in that, I'll talk about the 5 skills, approaches, mindsets that can truly help you transform the relationship with your team. I truly believe there is no such thing as an organizational culture anymore. It's team culture, it's leadership culture, and that begins with you. So if that intrigues you, I'll put the link in the chat, the registration link. I would love to see you there. And this is what I want for you. In the next meeting you walk into with any individual in your team, outside of just focusing on what, get curious about the person. Spend a minute really getting curious and ask them and talk to them and come from a space of caring for them. I think in this stressful time, we all need that. Thank you.